glad you're here. Before we get started though, I gotta go grab a few things. Hey, this is Sarah from the Baker Outdoor Learning Center, part of Three Rivers Park District. And today we are doing fire basics. And so I just want you to pause and just think about, like, why would we build a fire? So some things you may have been thinking about or come to mind of uses for fire. One that comes to my mind right away is cooking, because I like to eat. But it also gives off that heat. At night, it's a great source of light. It can be used for land management, such as prairie burns or burning invasive species. It can also be used for a sense of safety. There are lots of things fires can be used for. You may have come up with several that I have missed as well. But unless you can make a fire, you can't use them for those things. So today we are going to learn our basics parts of building a fire. So what are some of these parts? What are these things that you have to have in order to get a fire going? One of them is a little oxygen. Fires actually need that to burn, kind of to breathe. We also need something to start our fire with. Today we're going to be using matches. So we'll get our fire started with matches. But you could use a lighter, flint and steel, those bow drills, magnifying lenses, batteries. There's lots of ways, but you need an ignition source, something to get our fire started with. You need something teeny tiny that flame can kind of catch to. So we call that tinder. Today we're going to use some paper. Paper works pretty well for tinder. Something called kindling. Kindling is our little teeny tiny pieces that help start our fire. And then basically all of those things are what we call fuel. So fuel is what that fire needs to burn into. So I'm going to start with our paper. If I just put my paper in there the way it is, or flat, it's hard to get that fire started. But if I take and I make it into kind of a ball, I'm going to rip some of this paper off. I'm going to take and ball it up. It gives it a little airspace here, a little height. Because if you think about it, when you light a match or a candle and there's no wind, which way does the flame go? It goes up. So I'm going to have this kind of down on the bottom here because I want my flame when I light my paper, because that's the first thing I'm going to light. I want that flame to go up and then catch into my tinder. So I'm going to put this down into my fire area. I'm going to stick that into the middle. And then I'm going to come back over here, and I've collected a lot of small twigs, mostly smaller around than a pencil. I want them to be really dry and ready to go. So I take my twigs and I can give them what I call the happy snappy test. So let's grab a big twig here. If I can break it and it snaps, that's a nice dry twig. This is what I would consider happy snappy. If I find another twig out here and I'm like, well, that's smaller around than a pencil, maybe this would work. And it does one of these. I can't hear that. This is not happy snappy. I can even see that there's a little green on it here. That means that this is a little wetter. This is probably not going to be great for my fire. So I want these nice happy snappy twigs. And then I have to decide, where am I going to put them on my fire? I could put them underneath my paper, beside my paper, or on top of my paper. I'm going to take my happy snappy twigs, and I'm thinking about where that flame is going to go. I want them to go onto my twigs. So I'm going to put my twigs actually on top of my paper. Some people like to form them nice and neatly on there. I'm not one of those people. So I'm just going to get a bunch of my twigs on top of my paper. I've got some air space there. Looks pretty good. Some's good. More is better. And now I'm going to look for a spot that's easy to get my match in, that I can get down to the edge of the paper and let it kind of burn up in. So I'm just about ready to light my match into my fire, but there's a couple things that I need to think about before I actually light my match. A couple are some safety things. I'm going to check and make sure that this is not a windy day. It's a pretty calm day. I've taken a look around and I've kind of cleared out any extra dead leaves and things. I've got a nice safe spot. I've got a metal pan kind of propped up so that it won't wreck my lawn or anything underneath there. And I've got a big bucket of water because when we're done with our fires need to be what we call dead out, which means no smoke and no heat. Okay, so we're ready to light our match. This is pretty exciting stuff. I take my match. I'm gonna hold it between my thumb and my pointer finger right about halfway. On the side of my box, I've got a place where I'm going to rub this on, because actually this is kind of like a friction fire. I'm going to start at one end and I'm going to go away from myself, and I'm going to get a little mat at it, rub on there. I'm hopefully, between now and when I get to my paper, it won't go out. We'll give it a first try here. Okay, so I get down pretty close to where I want to light it. Go away from myself. I'm going to hold it underneath that edge of the paper. I think I'm at the edge of the paper. If it gets towards my fingers, I'm going to let it go. So I've put it on the edge of the paper. You can see those flames are headed up, which is good. It's going to burn into our smaller pieces. What do we call those? That's the tinder and the kindling. And then as our fire goes, I can start adding bigger pieces of wood. I just add to the top. I don't take anything out of my fire. I just add as we go. Oh, you can tell the air is getting there. Luckily I have my bucket over here. And now definitely we're getting some warmth. In a little bit, maybe cook down to some coals. Maybe we do a little cooking on there. At night we would enjoy the light and the comfort and safety of our fire. So I've really enjoyed my fire. I'm off and ready now to go do other things, but we've still got some coals and some smoke. We want to make sure that our fire is dead out, what we call dead out, which means I feel like I'm safe leaving it here. So I'm going to start with pouring a little water on my coals and my embers here. I'm going to make sure that I kind of keep my head away, because when I do that, it's going to cause some steam to happen, and I don't want that to happen in my face. So I'm going to pour a little water in carefully. And then to make sure that I have all the embers out, I'm going to take a stick, and all these white parts on here, this is still hot. So I'm going to make sure that I kind of stir this down into our water to make sure that all of our embers are out and that it's safe. Now I take a look, I don't see any steam coming off. I don't hear anything burning. No white bits. I feel it. It feels nice and cool. My fire's now safely out. I don't have to worry about it going anywhere. And now I can go places, enjoy the rest of my day. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching our fires.